These were beautiful. Future. Whatever. My regular niffler. Hello beautiful people, how's it going? I'm back with another video. Today I wanted to talk about racism in Harry Potter. Now I know what you're thinking, racism doesn't exist in Harry Potter, it's a fictional book. Well, you're wrong, racism does exist in Harry Potter and it's really prominent, so I wanted to talk about one of Harry Potter's main themes, and I wanted to give you guys a couple of examples so you guys can run with it. So without further ado, let's begin. So you'd be surprised to know that there are actually a lot of examples of racism in Harry Potter, and blood purity is one of the main focuses of racism that I wanted to touch on in this video. From the first book in the series, The Philosopher's Stone, you get introduced to characters like Draco Malfoy who favor purebloods over non-purebloods, and I'll get to explaining that in a second. So in the Harry Potter world, there are three kinds of wizards. The first are purebloods. These are wizards who are born out of both wizard parents. These wizards get treated as if they're the best mainly because they come from a full magical bloodline. The second are half-bloods. These are wizards who are born out of only one magical parent or some form of human interaction in their bloodline. And finally you have mudbloods, which are actually at the lowest ranking, and these are wizards who actually are born to human parents, fully human parents. And the way Jo Rowling creates characters in these hierarchies, and the way she creates characters that dislike the other races, are pretty phenomenal. So let's take the main trio for example, Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Ron in this case is the only pureblood, and interestingly enough, he is the kindest out of all of them, and he is the most warm-hearted. Some may argue that that's because Ron comes from a really poor family, and I'm not going to disagree with you on that, because most of the other purebloods we see in the wizarding world are actually so rude and racist towards people in the lower classes. In this case, Harry is actually a half-blood because Lily Evans's parents were both muggles, so therefore he has human life down in his bloodline, which is really ironic since Harry grows up to become the chosen one and probably the most important wizard in all of magic history. And finally, you have Hermione Granger, the mudblood, who is constantly referred to as the brightest witch of her age, and is an all-out genius, and she can perform magic better than most of the purebloods in Hogwarts at the time when she was attending school. And so Jo actually begins the Philosopher's Stone by giving us three characters who don't fit into their stereotypical molds in these hierarchy ranks, which I think is really great because she begins by breaking that stereotype and then contrasting it by revealing to us characters like the Malfoys, for example, who hate mudbloods. In the Chamber of Secrets, the character of Rubeus Hagrid goes on to explain how the Malfoys hate mudbloods, and I find that really interesting because you also later find out that the Malfoys are actually the first case in which we witness an elf being held as a slave, with Dobby the house elf. The concept of having elves as slaves who can only be freed once their master gives them a piece of clothing is really beautiful when you think about it, because you can relate it to the real world. These elves are enslaved, and the only way they could be freed is to be given kindness from their masters, which really goes to show you how badly these elves, particularly Dobby and maybe even Creature, have been treated. What really brings this point forward to me is how Jo really instills the fact that racism is even alive in those who are really kind. For example, with Ron Weasley. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, when Hermione started Spew, which was horrifically removed from the movies. For those of you who don't know, Spew was an organization that Hermione started to free essentially all of the house elves because she didn't agree with the way that house elves were being treated in the wizarding world. Ron, on the other hand, really disagreed with her and put up a fight because he believed that these elves were where they belong, which is a really clever mechanism that Jo used to show the reader that racism is alive even in those who you love the most. For example, Ron Weasley, who grew up in a poor family but still has these core beliefs as they're passed on through generations. There was also a part in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, actually in the beginning of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, in which Voldemort kills Charity Burbage, who taught at Hogwarts, because she taught Muggle studies and she believed that it was not an abomination that Muggles and wizards would mate and maybe start a life cooperating with each other. Prejudice in the Harry Potter world is actually so spread out and widened and so in-depth. It's really phenomenal. I find the concept of racism in Harry Potter so prominent, and these themes that J.K. Rowling has implemented into the books need to be discussed more, and that's why I decided to do it here on my channel today. That was my video on racism in the Harry Potter universe. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like and a comment down below, and subscribe to my channel to see a lot more Harry Potter content. Bye guys!